Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom to the whole entire house, that is to say by Eve of YAHUAH'S, all 12 tribes, worldwide, wherever your feet are touching the soil on this day, on this Yom. To the elder brother, Yehuda, that is to say Judah. To the younger brother, Ephraim, that is to say Ephraim. To the former Gentile, the former nation, the former stranger, or the former foreigner, who was formerly estranged from the everlasting covenant, but now having been engrafted into the olive tree, after receiving the Ruach of adoption, the Ruach HaKadosh, and whereby now no longer being a stranger or a foreigner or a Gentile or a nation, but now becoming an adopted son and a fellow citizen of the house of YAHUAH'S, and whereby now you are privy to the same everlasting covenant and promise and inheritance that was given to YAHUAH'S and to YAHUAH'S alone. Shabbat Shalom to you, to the whole house, the whole Ba'it of YAHUAH'S, peace and blessings, that is to say, Shalom and Barakut to you and your entire house, wherever you are listening under the sound of my voice. Shabbat Shalom to you and your entire house. Thank you to those who are on YouTube, who will hear this teaching, who will hear this message later on. We are grateful to Yahuwah. We're grateful to the Father that He has drawn you to this channel. We're grateful that once more that that Abba has drawn you to share on this Shabbat Yom with us. I am Daoud ben Yahuwah, and this is my Aisha, that is to say wife, Asher Yah.
Shabbat Shalom.
Barak Yahuwah, Barak Yahuwah. Welcome to you who are on YouTube, and welcome here to the Zoom family who are here live. Barak Yahuwah, Shabbat Shalom to you as well, to you and your entire house. To those of you who are on YouTube, once again, if you have a desire to join us live, our contact information is in the channel description. Barak Yahuwah, Barak Yahuwah, Barak Yahuwah for all that He has done. So here we are. We are now just ending up Pesach and unleavened bread. And praise Abba for His last message in showing us that all things are spiritual. All things are spiritual, and that we must partake of His feast days in Ruach, and that is to say spirit, and in truth. It is not about the physical. It's not about the flesh. The flesh profits nothing. All flesh is going to die. But those who are born of Ruach will live, because it is the Ruach, or the Spirit, who gives life. And so we thank Him for showing us that the Pesach must be kept in spirit and in truth. And the Feast of Unleavened Bread must also be kept in spirit and in truth. Barak Yahuwah. And so now we're here on this Shabbat Yom, and we're on the cusp of the Feast of First Fruit. The text declares on the morrow after the Shabbat. That would be tomorrow. On the first day of the week, we will keep the Feast of First Fruit. And Abba has sent His servant by this day to speak a little bit about first fruit, to speak just a little bit about first fruit. Abba has shown us through His servant that the Torah is eternal Torah, as that relates to the letter, are childlike instructions to children that are designed to teach us deeper spiritual matters. The Torah, as that relates to the letter, are childlike instructions that the Father has given to his children to teach us deeper spiritual matters. He is not done away with the letter, as some may think. He is not done away with the letter. There are parts of the letter, however, that we cannot do. There are parts of the letter that we can no longer do. However, that does not mean that we can neglect that which the letter is pointing towards. We cannot neglect it. Again, there's parts of the letter that we cannot do in the letter, but we can still partake of that which the letter is teaching us in Ruach and in truth, in Ruach and in truth. One of the things that we can no longer do in the letter is animal offerings, animal sacrifice. That was a mere shadow. That was a mere shadow of some more deeper matters, and we're not going to talk about that at this point because you should already know that. You should already know that Yahushua fulfilled the need for animal offerings. And so one of those things, in accordance with the letter, is animal offerings. But while the letter has gotten rid of the need for animal offerings, it has not gotten rid of the need for an offering. That which was here on the earth, as that applies to animal offerings, came from the Shamayim, came from the heavens in the first place. Yes, he is the lamb that was slain before the foundation of the earth. And so that portion of the letter has now merely been moved from the earth back to the Shamayim from the place in which it came from in the first place. And so if you can understand, even though the letter of that has been done away with, that Torah, as it applies to animal offerings, has not been done away with yet, because that is still being taken place in the Shamayim via the shed dam of Yahushua HaMashiach. Moreover, temple worship, as it applies to the letter, has been removed from the earth back to the Shamayim from the place of which it descended in the first place. It's back in the Shamayim. And so we still conduct temple worship, but it is now in Ruach and in truth. It has not been done away with. It has not been done away with in the way that many think that it has been done away with. It is still here. It is still prevalent. It is still active. It is still active, only in Ruach. Only in Ruach. And I pray that as Abba has been speaking through his servant, that we are beginning to understand this. That we are beginning to understand. And so one of those things that we can no longer do in letter, but we're still required to do in Ruach, is to celebrate the Feast of First Fruit. It's to celebrate the Feast of First Fruit. And we're going to talk about it. Abba's going to talk about the letter, and he's going to talk about the shadow of what that points towards, and which is more important than the letter, because indeed the letter still kills, but it is the Ruach who gives life. It is the Ruach who gives life. And so Abba has a couple of preface scriptures that he wants to go over, just to reinforce what he's already spoken through his servant. He has a couple of preface scriptures, and then we're going to get into today's teaching or today's message. And if you're taking notes, the title of today's teaching or today's message is Searching for the Ancient Path, Part 41. Searching for the Ancient Path, Part 41, First Fruits. First Fruits. Searching for the Ancient Path, Part 41, First Fruits. First Fruits. Again, Searching for the Ancient Path, Part 41, First Fruits. First Fruits. So as spoken, Abba has a couple of preface scriptures that he wants to be read before we get into today's message, before we get into today's teaching. The first preface scripture will come from the book of Romans. It will come from the book of Romans, the 8th chapter. What verse, little one?
The 7th chapter, verse 14.
I'm sorry. Forgive me. The first scripture will come from Romans. Little one is like, no, that's not it. That's not it. You told me Romans 7. You told me Romans 7. You didn't say Romans 8. She was getting uncomfortable over here. Relax, little one. It's all well. It's all good. Romans 7.
Yes, sir.
What verse, little one?
14.
Verse 14. The first preface will come from the book of Romans, chapter 7, verse 14. Verse 14. Beginning at verse 14. Go ahead and read, little one.
For we know that the Torah is spiritual, but I am fleshly, sold under crime.
Barak YAHUAH. So here, Shaul tells us that the Torah is spiritual. Abba has been telling us that it's all about the spirit. It's all about Ruach. It's not about the flesh. The flesh profits nothing. And so in order to keep or guard the righteous Torah, we must guard it in Ruach, and in truth. Now, as mentioned, there are certain portions or parts of the Torah that the letter has been removed that we can no longer practice because of the temple, the Ha'iko, has been moved away and animal sacrifice is no longer applicable. However, we are still to keep this practice of the Torah in Ruach and in truth. Even the portion of the Torah in which we can practice in letter with respect to, for example, the wearing of tzitzits. We can still wear tzitzits in the letter, but we must understand what the letter is pointing towards. We must understand what the deeper spiritual context of what this text is trying to teach us. If we're only wearing tzitzits for the sake of wearing tzitzits because the text said so, then we're only practicing the letter, and we will go to that place of darkness. We will be invited to a barbecue wearing tzitzits. We must understand. We must understand the deeper context. We must understand that we are a living tabernacle, that the Ruach of YAHUAH has made his home in us and written his Torah upon our hearts, whereby giving us the ability to obey Torah, and who is giving us a love for Torah and a willingness to obey it. If he has not done this, then the wearing of these tzitzits means nothing. It means nothing. Because these tzitzits, we wear them to remind us of what? To keep the Torah. But unless we are living tabernacles, having the Torah written upon our heart, we can't obey the Torah. I pray you understand. So there are parts of the letter that we still keep, but we must understand that these are childlike instructions that are given to Torah, given to children to teach us about deeper spiritual matters. The Torah is spiritual. Romans 7:14 declares that the Torah is spiritual, and so we must keep it in Ruach and in truth. Barak YAHUAH. We have another precept now coming from Galatians. I believe it's the 3rd chapter. Is that right, little one?
Yes, sir.
Galatians, the 3rd chapter. What verse?
24.
Verse 24. Galatians, the 3rd chapter. We're going to take our time and we're going to let you follow along today. Barak YAHUAH. And I pray that Abba would keep this at a medium heat, but I can't promise anything. I can't promise a thing that he's going to keep this at medium heat. I have no control over that. Of whether or not this stays at medium heat or if it arises to extra hot. Barak YAHUAH. But we're going to try to keep this at a medium heat and take our time with this and allow you to follow along. Barak YAHUAH. Galatians 3. Galatiyim in the Hebrew tongue. Galatiyim, Galatians 3, verse 24, little one.
Yes.
Barak YAHUAH. Reading verse 24, it reads.
Therefore, the Torah became our trainer unto Mashiach in order to be declared right by belief.
Barak YAHUAH. So the Torah here, as he's been speaking through his servant, is a trainer. It is childlike instructions given to his children to what? To teach us deeper spiritual matters that will save our lives. That will save our lives. Now, as it applies here, now Christians love to take this and twist it to their own understanding and to their own destruction, thinking that the Torah is done away with. No, it is not done away with. Shaul here is teaching about the spirit and the letter. The spirit and the letter. The letter he is talking about here is animal sacrifice. It's animal sacrifice. The spirit here that he's talking about is the Hamashiach, of which animal sacrifice pointed towards. We are no longer declared right or righteous by the shedding of the blood of bulls, goats, and sheep. Indeed, we were never declared right by the blood of bulls, goats, and sheep. But we are declared right by what? By belief in the offering of the body of the Hamashiach. that's still an offering, but it is in Ruach. It is in Ruach. It is still an offering that declares us right. The Torah has not been done away with. Yahusha came in the volume of the book. His very offering was in accordance with the Torah in every single way. His offering was in accordance with Torah in every single way. In every way, he fulfilled the Torah. He came and to fulfill and to complete the Torah, not to do away with it, but he came to fulfill and complete that which was written about him in the Torah, in the prophets, and in the writings. It has not been done away with. It has not been done away with. And so here in this aspect, it's twofold. It's twofold here. It shows indeed that the Torah is a trainer. It is childlike instructions given to his children to teach us about deeper spiritual matters. It has not been done away with. Animal sacrifice has. Animal offering has. But the Torah has not been done away with because, again, his offering was in accordance with Torah. Yes, Paul speaks of this to those who have ears to hear and a heart of understanding. He talks about a righteousness apart from the Torah. Yes, he does. He talks about a righteousness apart from the Torah. What is righteousness? Torah is righteousness. Obedience to Torah is righteousness. So he's still talking about Torah, but what he's saying is our righteousness does not come from animal offerings. Our righteousness, or us being made right with Yahuwah, comes from belief in the offering of the body of the Hamashiach. But it's still Torah. It's still Torah. If you can understand, this is still Torah because there was still an offering made. There was still an offering made. Nevertheless, having laid this groundwork here now, let's take a look at first fruit. Let's take a look at first fruit. We're going to first take a look at the Torah. Torah, for those of you who are new, it means instruction. Instruction, singular, instruction. Torah-ut, for those of you who are new, means instructions, plural, means instructions. The Latin word law is very, it's confusing, and it's purposely confusing so as to cause confusion and to cause a grand deception and to cause a great delusion. But the Latin word law is really out of place. It doesn't belong in the scriptures because it has a Latin origin. It's neither Greek nor Hebrew. It is Latin. It is Latin, but it has given people the impression that the whole of the law of the Torah has been done away with. That's a lie from the pit of hell. Now, again, Torah means instruction. Torah-ut means instructions. Now, the Torah, as it applies to animal offerings, is an instruction, and that instruction has been done away with. But the Torah, with respect to an offering being required, has not been done away with. So the Torah has not been done away with. He's just removed the responsibility from our hands. The works of the law, the works of the Torah that would declare us righteous, the work, meaning we have to physically bring an animal to the door of the Hayikul and slaughter it and put in our own work and slaughter it and skin it and devour it and cut it up and then give it to the priest to wash it and to offer. That works of the law, that works of the Torah has been done away with. But how many of you know that, behold, I come quickly and my reward is with me to do what? To reward each according to his works. The works of Torah has not been done away with. The works of animal sacrifice has been done away with. Barak Yahuwah. Barak Yahuwah. Now let's get some understanding regarding first fruits. And we're first going to read the Torah. As it applies to first fruit, we're going to read the Torah, and then we're going to allow Abba, we're going to allow his Ruach to show us what these instructions, these childlike instructions, are pointing towards. What is the deeper spiritual matter that he wants us to get and that he wants us to operate in as that applies to first fruit? as that applies to first fruit. Now, as my Aisha reads through the Torah, I'm not going to comment it. I'm not going to comment on it much. We're reading the letter. We're reading the letter. And as she's reading the letter, just pay close attention to what the letter is saying. Pay very close attention to what the letter is saying. And then prayerfully, after we've read through the Torah, we've read through the instructions, Yahuwah will then begin to connect the dots, connect the pieces, and show us the deeper spiritual matter of which these childlike instructions given to children are pointing towards. Barak Yahuwah. So if you have your scriptures at hand, and you should, if you have your scriptures at hand, turn to the book of Exodus. Turn to the book of Exodus, the 13th chapter. In the Hebrew tongue, that is Shamut. Exodus in the, actually, let me correct that. In the English tongue, it is Shamut. I'm not speaking Hebrew. Shamut is a transliteration. It is the Hebrew word transliterated into the English tongue using English Latin letters. I'm not speaking Hebrew. I'm speaking English. I'm speaking a transliterated word. So the correct transliterated word for Exodus is Shamut. Shamut. And it means names. Names in the plural. Sham means name. Shamut means names. So this is not Hebrew. This is a transliterated English word, a Hebrew word into the English tongue using English Latin words. Barak Yahuwah. I don't speak Hebrew. I speak English. And what you hear is an English word. A transliterated word spoken in the English tongue. Shamut. 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 But you are familiar with it as Exodus. Exodus, the 13th chapter. And we're going to read, I believe, verses 1 through 13. 1 through 13. Exodus chapter 13. Shamut. Chapter 13. Verses 1 through 13. Verses 1 through 13. We're going to read through it. I'm not going to comment on it much, if at all, but pay attention. Pay attention to what's being said in this instruction. Pay attention to what is being said in the Torah. Beginning at verse 1, read, little one.
And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, Kadush to me all the firstborn, the one opening the womb among the children of Yasharal, among man and among beast, it is mine. And Moshe said to the people, Remember this day in which you went out of Mitzrayim, out of the house of slavery. For by strength of hand Yahuwah brought you out of this place. And whatever is leaven shall not be eaten. Today you are going out in the new month, Abib. And it shall be when Yahuwah brings you into the land of the Canaanites, and the Kattites, and the Amorites, and the Kawites, and the Yabusites, which he swore to your fathers to give you, a land flowing with milk and honey, that you shall keep this service in the new month. 7 days you eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day is a festival to Yahuwah. Unleavened bread is to be eaten in the 7 days, and whatever is leavened is not to be seen within you, and leaven is not to be seen within you and within all your borders. And you shall inform your son in that day, saying, It is because of what Yahuwah did for me when I came up from Mitzrayim. And it shall be as a sign to you on your hand, and as a reminder between your eyes, that the Torah of Yahuwah is to be in your mouth. For with a strong hand Yahuwah has brought you out of Mitzrayim. And you shall guard this statute at its appointed time from year to year. And it shall be when Yahuwah brings you into the land of the Canaanites, as he swore to you and your father, and gives it to you, that you shall give over to Yahuwah every one opening the womb, and every firstborn that comes from your livestock. The males belong to Yahuwah, but every firstborn of a donkey you are to ransom with the lamb. And if you do not ransom it, then you shall break its neck. And every firstborn of man among your sons you are to ransom.
Barak Yahuwah. So here in the Torah, Yahuwah gives instruction through Moshe to separate unto him all firstborn, both of man and of beast, to separate unto him all firstborn. In other words, all firstfruits. Firstborn, another word for firstborn is firstfruits. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So he gives instruction to Moshe to separate unto him all firstborn, both of man and of beast. And he gives instruction to ransom a donkey with a lamb, and he gives instruction to redeem all of the firstborn of men. To redeem all of the firstborn of men with the firstborn of a beast. To redeem all of the firstborn of man with the firstborn of a beast. I'm not going to speak more of that at this time. Pay attention to the letter. What we have, little one?
We got Exodus 22, 29 to 30.
Exodus, Shamut, chapter 22, verses 29 and 30. Exodus, Shamut, chapter 22, verses 29 through 30. Exodus, Shamut, chapter 22, verses 29 through 30. Verses 29 through 30. I think we've given those long enough. We'll use the index long enough to find it, little one. Barak Yahuwah. So go ahead and read verse 29 through 30.
Do not delay giving your harvest and your vintage. Give me the firstborn of your sons. Likewise, you are to do with your oxen, with your sheep. It is to be with his mother 7 days. On the 8th day, you give it to me.
Barak Yahuwah. Read that again slowly.
Do not delay giving your harvest and your vintage.
Do not delay giving your harvest and your vintage.
Give me the firstborn of your sons.
Give me the firstborn of your sons. So here we see the harvest of your vintage. This is first fruits. And it is tied into the firstborn of your sons. They both are first fruits. Both are first fruits. Firstborn are first fruits. First fruits are firstborn. Barak Yahuwah. Keep reading.
Likewise, you are to do with your oxen, with your sheep. It is to be with his mother 7 days. On the 8th day, you give it to me. Barak
Yahuwah. On the 8th day, you give it to me. And that is the day in which the sons are circumcised. Barak Yahuwah. We're not going to speak anything else about this. Just pay attention to the letter. Pay attention to the letter. What we have, little one?
We got Leviticus 23, 9 through 14.
Leviticus chapter 23. And properly in the English tongue, in using the transliterated word, transliterating a Hebrew word into the English tongue using English and Latin letters, this word is uikra. Uikra. Indeed, I'm still speaking English to you. I'm still using the English tongue. This word is uikra, but we are used to it as being Leviticus, uikra, the 23rd chapter, verses
9 through 14.
9 through 14. Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, uikra, the 23rd chapter, verses 9 through 15. 14.
Yeah.
Leviticus, uikra, the 23rd chapter, verses 9 through 14. Barak Yahuwah, Barak Yahuwah. Repeated it 3 times. That gives those long enough for you the index to catch up. Barak Yahuwah. Now, beginning at verse 9. And reading through verse 14. Go ahead and read, little one.
And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Yasharal, and you shall say to them, When you come into the land which I give you, and shall reap its harvest, then you shall bring a sheaf of the firstfruits of your harvest to the priest, and he shall wave the sheaf before Yahuwah for your acceptance. On the morrow after the Shabbat, the priest waves it.
And that's tomorrow. Come on.
And on that day when you wave the sheaf, you shall prepare a male lamb a year old, a perfect one, as an ascending offering to Yahuwah, and its grain offering, 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil, an offering made by fire to Yahuwah, a sweet fragrance. It is a drink offering, 1/4 of a hin of wine, and you do not eat bread or roasted grain or fresh grain until the same day that you have brought an offering to your Elohim, a statute forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings.
Barak Yahuwah. Now we're just going to talk just a little bit about the letter here. We're not going to talk about the deeper spiritual context of which this letter is trying to teach us yet, but we're just going to talk a little bit about the letter. Now, this is the Torah. The Torah says that. Well, let me back up. Let's look at it this way. During the Feast of Unleavened Bread, during the entire feast, our ancestors partook of the prior year's harvest. they partook of the prior year's barley harvest. They partook of that during the entire Feast of Unleavened Bread. They partook of the prior year's barley harvest. Now, they could not partake of the New Year's barley harvest until after unleavened bread, until after the time in which they did what? That they brought the first fruits of the harvest to the priest, to a Levite priest, who then took that into the Kadosh place, which is the temple, which is no longer there. And we don't know who is Levite and who is not Levite, who then took it into the Kadosh place and waved it before Yahuwah. So this, all of the feasts are centered around harvest time. They're centered around harvest time. Pesach and unleavened bread is centered around the barley harvest. First fruits is centered around the barley harvest. Afterwards, after first fruit, on the day of first fruit, starting on the day of first fruit, we do what? We count 50. We count 50 days. We count 7 Shabbats of days plus 1. 7 Shabbats of days is 49 days plus 1. And Shabua'ut, or the Feast of Weeks, of which most call Pentecost, is celebrated on the 50th day. Pentecost is also called first fruit, and it is centered around the wheat harvest. It is centered around the wheat harvest. So all of the feasts are centered around a harvest. The fall feasts are centered around the fall harvest. The spring feasts are centered around the spring feast. Are centered around the spring harvest. So there's two things to consider. Two things to consider here. We're no longer growing barley, and we're no longer growing wheat. But does that mean that the Torah has been done away with? No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. But this portion of the letter we can no longer do. We can no longer gather in the first fruits of the barley harvest and bring it to the priest, who then takes it into the temple, into the Kadosh place, and waves it. But hear me, hear Abba. There is a deeper spiritual context in which Yahuwah is trying to show us here. And this is partly the reason where not one stone of the temple was left in the first place. And we are now scattered to the four corners of the Earth. In other words, we're scattered to the four corners of the earth. And so part of that is connected to that. Part of that deeper spiritual context is so that, and part of the reason that the temple is not there and the Levitical priesthood is not known to us is so that we would get the deeper spiritual context of this feast, which will save our lives. And so there's part of this letter that we can no longer do. But that doesn't mean that we don't celebrate the feast. We must understand the deeper spiritual context of what the letter is trying to teach us. And it's the spirit that gives life, but the letter still kills. Barak Yahuwah. So we're not going to speak much more about that yet. We're still looking at the letter. We're still looking at the Torah. We're still looking at the letter, which again are childlike instructions given to children to teach us deeper spiritual matters. Give us another precept, Lord.
We have Numbers 18, 1 through 15.
Numbers, chapter 18, verses 1 through 15. Now, the proper word for this again, this Hebrew word transliterated into the English tongue is the word bamatba. And that word means wilderness. It means wilderness. Bamatba. And it means wilderness, not numbers. The correct word is bamatba, and it means wilderness. And more accurately, it means in the wilderness. Matba meaning wilderness, ba meaning in the. So bamatba is in the wilderness, not numbers. Nevertheless, this is Numbers, bamatba, chapter 18. Verses 1 through 15. Numbers, bamatba, chapter 18, verses 1 through 15. Numbers, bamatba, chapter 18, verses 1 through 15. beginning at verse 1.
And Yahuwah said to Aharon, you and your sons and your father's house with you are to bear the crookedness against the Kadush place. And you and your sons with you are to bear the crookedness against your priesthood. But bring with you your brothers of the tribe of Levi too, the tribe of your father, to join you and serve you while you and your sons are with you before the tent of witness. And they shall guard your charge and the duty of all the tent. But they do not come near the furnishings of the Kadush place and the slaughter place, lest they die, both they and you. And they shall be joined with you and guard the duty to the tent of appointment for all the service of the tent. But a stranger does not come near you. And you shall guard the duty of the Kadush place and the duty of the slaughter place, so that there be no more wrath on the children of Yasharal. And see, I myself have taken your brothers, the Levites, from the midst of the children of Yasharal, a gift to you, given by Yahuwah to do the service of the tent of appointment. But you and your sons with you are to guard your priesthood for all matters at the slaughter place and behind the veil, and you shall serve. I have given you the priesthood as a gift for service, but the stranger who comes near is put to death. And Yahuwah spoke to Aharon, and see, I myself have also given you the charge of my contributions, all the Kadush gifts of the children of Yasharal. I have given them to you for the anointing, and to your sons as a statute forever. This is yours of the most Kadush gifts from the fire. All their offerings, all their grain offerings, and all their crime offerings, and all their guilt offerings which they render to me are Kadush for you and your sons. Eat it in the Kadush place. Every male eats it. It is Kadush to you. This also is yours, the contribution of their gift, with all the wave offerings of the children of Yasharal.
All the wave offerings of the children of Yasharal, they are yours. Come on.
I have given them to you, and your sons and your daughters with you as a statute forever. Everyone who is clean in your house eats it. All the best of the oil and all the best of the new wine and the grain. Their first fruits which they give to Yahuwah.
Their first fruits which they give to Yahuwah are.
I have given them to you.
I have given them to you.
The first few fruits of all that is in their land which they bring to Yahuwah are yours.
Are yours.
Everyone who is clean in your house eats it. And all that is dedicated in Yasharal is yours. Everyone opening a womb of all flesh which they bring to Yahuwah, whether man or beast, is yours. But to ransom you shall ransom the firstborn of man, and the firstborn of the unclean beast you ransom.
Barak Yahuwah, thank you, little one. Now the Torah declares that through the mouth of Masha, that the priesthood had been given to Aaron and his sons. And he had given the Levites to the priesthood, to Aaron and his son, to help them, in order to help them. And it is declared further through the mouth of Masha here, which is talking about the letter, It is further declared through the mouth of Masha to Aaron that all of the contributions, all of the offerings of the children of Yasharal, that Yahuwah has given them to the priests, to the Kahanim, which is priests, which is the proper word for priest. He's given the contributions to the priests, to the Kahanim, for their service in the set apart place, in the Kadush place. He further says that now you are to bear the crookedness of the children of Yasharal. And they are not to come near the Kadush place. They are not to come near it or come in it, lest they die. But you are to bear their crookedness. I'm still talking about the letter. But for your service, all of their contributions, all of their offerings, all of their wave offerings, and by the way, a wave offering is a first fruit offering. Yes, it is. All of their offerings, the wave offerings, the first fruit offerings, the ascending offerings, the shalom offerings, the thank offerings, the grain offerings, the oblations, the drink offerings, the crime offerings, all of their offerings I am giving to you. They are yours. They are yours from the contribution of the children of Yasharal. They are yours for you, and anyone who is clean in your household may eat of it. This is an everlasting Torah. This is an everlasting Torah. Now, before going on any further, he says this is everlasting. This is an everlasting Torah. But I pray you understand that in eternity, there ain't going to be no animal sacrifice. Ain't going to be no animal sacrifice. No, it won't. No, it will not be. But this is an everlasting Torah. I pray you get in the spiritual context. This is an everlasting Torah. An everlasting Torah, but there's not going to be any animal sacrifice in eternity. Nevertheless, we're still talking about the letter. We're still talking about the letter. We're not going to go any further beyond the letter yet. Give us another precept, little one.
We have Deuteronomy 26, 1 through 4.
Deuteronomy 26. Deuteronomy 26, verses 1 through 4. Now, this word is more properly dabar-im. Dabar-im. Dabar meaning word. Dabar-im meaning words. Words, not Deuteronomy. But this is in which most people know it by, Deuteronomy. But really, the English transliterated word is dabar-im. Dabar-im, and it means words. Words, plural. And we're reading here in the 26th chapter, and we're going to read verses 1 through 4. Deuteronomy, dabar-im, verses 26. And we're going to read verses 1 through 4. Verses 1 through 4. Deuteronomy, dabar-im, chapter 26, verses 1 through 4. Verses 1 through 4. Beginning at verse 1. Read, little one.
And it shall be when you come into the land which Yahuwah your Elohim is giving you as an inheritance, and you possess it and dwell in it, that you shall take some of the first of all the fruits of the soil, which you bring from your land that Yahuwah your Elohim is giving you, and shall put it in a basket and go to the place where Yahuwah your Elohim chooses to make his name dwell there. And you shall come to the one who is priest in those days and say to him, I shall declare today to Yahuwah your Elohim that I have come to the land which Yahuwah swore to our fathers to give us, and the priest shall take the basket from your hand and place it before the slaughter place of Yahuwah your Elohim.
Barak Yahuwah. Barak Yahuwah. So this is a decree. This is Torah. When you get into the land in which I've given you, I want you to show me that you're grateful. And the way that you show me that you're grateful for the land that I've given you, for this portion that I've given you, when your harvest produce, I want you to bring the first fruits of that harvest to the priest in a basket to show me that you are grateful for not only the harvest that I've given to you, but the land that has produced the harvest. I want you to show your gratitude to me. I want you to show your gratitude to me. And indeed, this is on first fruits. This is on first fruits. This is not only on this coming first fruit tomorrow, but the same thing is done on what the nations call Pentecost, which is sometimes called the Feast of Weeks, and which is more properly called Shabuah-Ut. Shabuah-Ut, indeed. Again, I'm not speaking Hebrew. I'm not speaking Hebrew. This is a transliterated Hebrew word into the English tongue. Shabuah means week. W-E-E-K, singular, week. Shabuah-Ut means weeks. Weeks. 7 weeks. You count 7 weeks. 7 weeks times 7 is 49. On the 50th day, you hold a festival. You hold a feast. The Feast of Weeks. Shabuah-Ut, the feast of what the nations call Pentecost. And you do the same thing. You bring the first fruits from the wheat harvest. You bring the first fruits from the wheat harvest. But we're not going to talk about Shabuah-Ut today. Later on, Yahuwah willing, he will speak about Shabuah-Ut. So we're still reading the letter. Still reading the letter. Still reading the Torah. Still reading the letter of what the letter requires. And again, this we cannot do anymore. This part of the letter we cannot do anymore. But that does not mean that this has been done away with. That the Torah has been done away with respect to first fruits. Barak Yahuwah. Give us another precept, little one.
We have Genesis 2 and 7.
Now, we're getting ready to speak. Abba is getting ready to speak about the spirit of first fruit. He's getting ready to open up our understanding with respect to the Ruach, the spirit of first fruit. The spirit of first fruits. Barak Yahuwah. In which the letter in which are childlike instructions given to his children to teach us deeper spiritual matters, Now we're getting ready to understand, as Abba gives his servant utterance, we're getting ready to understand the deeper spiritual matters of first fruit. And we're reading now from the book of Genesis. We're going back to the very beginning. The book of Genesis, the second chapter. What verses, little one?
Verse 7.
Verse 7. We're only going to read chapter 2, verse 7. More accurately, this is called Ba-Rashit. Ba-Rashit. Again, I'm not speaking Hebrew. I'm not speaking Abarite. I'm speaking English to you. But this is more accurately Ba-Rashit. Now, unlike the other text, Genesis is actually close to what Ba-Rashit means. Genesis, the Latin word Genesis, means beginning. It means beginning. But Ba-Rashit, Ba meaning in the, and Rashit meaning beginning. So Ba-Rashit means in the beginning. In the beginning. Ba-Rashit, in the beginning. I'm not speaking Hebrew. I'm not speaking Abarite. I am speaking English. English. So this is Genesis, Ba-Rashit, chapter 2, verse 7. For those of you who use the index, this is the first book. This is the first one. It's the first one. You should already have it. You already have it. This is the first book, Barak Yahuwah. Barak Yahuwah. For those you ain't read in a while, but those of you who still use the index, this is the first book. This is the first book. And for those of you who don't understand my dry humor, this is dry humor. Barak Yahuwah. Barak Yahuwah. Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. Ba-Rashit, chapter 2, verse 7. Beginning at verse 7. Read, little one.
And Yahuwah Elohim formed the man out of dust from the ground.
Out of what?
Out of dust from the ground, and breathed into his nostrils breath of life, and the man became a living being.
Barak Yahuwah. So now, first fruits points towards what? Towards the first fruit. It points towards the first man. He came out of the ground, did he not? Yes, he did. Yes, he did. The first fruits from the soil. He is the first fruits from the soil. Again, first fruits means firstborn. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. First fruits points back to the first man. Yes, this is all about the redemption of mankind. Do you understand? Yes, it is. Adam, meaning mankind. This is all about the redemption of mankind being played out right before our eyes. We often talk about how the so-called elite like to do things right in front of our eyes, right in plain sight. Well, Abba's giving it to us right in plain sight in his Torah. Yes, he has. His redemption plan right in plain sight in his Torah. First fruit points towards the first fruit. The first fruit from the soil. Adam. Adam. He was brought forth from the soil. He is the firstborn from the soil, from the earth. The first fruit from the earth. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. This is what first fruits point towards. This is part of it. He's going to teach us more. But this is part of it. This is part of it. Come on, little one. Give us another precept.
Genesis 3, 1 through 19.
Genesis 3, 1 through 19. Barashif 3, verses 1 through 19. Genesis 3, verses 1 through 19. Barashif 3, Genesis 3, verses 1 through 19. Barashif 3, Genesis 3, verses 1 through 19. Now that's easy. You just got to flip a couple of pages. Come on, y'all. Come on. Chapter 3, beginning at verse 1, reading down through verse 19. Read, little one.
And the Nakash was more crafty than all the lives of the field which Yahuwah Elohim had made. And he said to the woman, Is it true that Elohim has said, Do not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said to the Nakash, We are to eat of all the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Elohim has said, Do not eat of it, nor touch it, lest you die. And the Nakash said to the woman, You shall certainly not die. For Elohim knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes shall be open, and you shall be like Elohim, knowing good and evil. And the woman saw that the tree was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, and the tree desirable to make one wise. And she took of its fruit and ate. And she also gave to her husband with her, and he ate. Then the eyes of both of them were open, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together and made loin coverings for themselves. And they heard the voice of Yahuwah Elohim walking about in the garden in the cool of day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of Yahuwah Elohim among the trees of the garden. And Yahuwah Elohim called unto Adam and said to him, Where are you? And he said, I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid myself. And he said, Who made you know that you were naked? Have you eaten of the tree of which I commanded you that you should not eat? And the man said, The woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I ate. And Yahuwah Elohim said to the woman, What is this you have done? And the woman said, The Nakash deceived me, and I ate. And Yahuwah Elohim said to the Nakash, Because you have done this, you are cursed more than all livestock, and more than every beast of the field. On your belly you are to go and eat dust all the days of your life. And I put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He shall crush your head, and you shall crush his heel. To the woman he said, I greatly increase your sorrow, and your conception bring forth children in pain. And your desires for your husband, and he does rule over you. And to the man he said, Because you have listened to the voice of your wife, and have eaten of the tree of which I commanded you, saying, Do not eat of it. Cursed is the ground because of you. In toil you are to eat of it all the days of your life. And the ground shall bring forth thorns and thistles for you. And you shall eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your face you are to eat bread until you return to the ground. For out of it you were taken, for dust you are, and dust you return.
Barak Yahuwah, Barak Yahuwah. First fruit is man. Man, coming from the ground. Yes, coming from the ground. The first fruits belong to Yahuwah. The first fruit belongs to the priest. Yahuwah is high priest. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. And the first fruits belong to him. Mankind belongs to him. Adam belongs to him. Adam came from his loins, formed from the dust of the earth. First fruits, being first fruits of Yahuwah. Yes, he was. Now, what determines if whether or not you and I are first fruits is that if we have been recreated or reborn in the manner in which Adam was created and born, not of flesh, not of blood, but of water and of ruach. Yes, the earth was made out of water by water. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. And so what determines if whether or not we are first fruits, it's not about grain. No, it's not about grain. It's about man. It's about the redemption of man. And what determines if whether or not you and I are first fruits is if we have been reborn and recreated. Yes, verily, verily, I say unto you, unless one is born from above, he will by no means enter or see the reign of Elohim. And so what determines if we are first fruit, if we have been reborn and recreated in the same way that Adam, who was first fruit, taken from the ground, was born and recreated. You see, this is why we bury our dead. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We put them in the ground from whence they came, so that when the resurrection comes, what happens? They produce fruit. They grow from the ground. Yes, they do. This is first fruit. This is first fruit. Those in the first resurrection, these first fruit, they're going to come from the ground. Yes, they are. They are seeds planted in the ground, and they're going to rise on during the first resurrection, which points towards first fruits. First fruits. These are all firstborn. I'm getting ahead of myself, but I pray you understand now the context, the deeper spiritual context of first fruit, of first fruits. The deeper spiritual context of first fruit. Not all of first fruits. No, not all of first fruit, but the first fruits belong to Yahuwah. He is the high priest. Yes, they do. And they belong to him. We belong to him. Come on, give us another precept.
Yeah, Genesis 4, 1 through 8.
Genesis 4, 1 through 8. Genesis, bar sheep. Genesis 4, 1 through 8. Genesis 4, bar sheep. Chapter 4, 1 through 8. Come on, just flip the page. Flip the page. Genesis, bar sheep, chapter 4, verses 1 through 8. Beginning at verse 1. Come on, read, little one.
And Adam knew Kua his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, and said, I have gained a man, Yahuwah. And again she gave birth to his brother Habal, and Habal became a keeper of sheep, but Cain became a tiller of the ground. And it came to be in the course of time that Cain brought an offering of the fruit of the ground to Yahuwah.
That Cain brought an offering of the fruit of the ground. Now, Cain did not bring the first fruits of the ground in accordance with the Torah. He brought the fruit of the ground. His heart was wicked from the beginning. He brought the fruit of the ground and not the first fruit of the ground. Come on, read.
And Habal also brought of the firstborn of his flock and of their fat. And Yahuwah looked to Habal and his offering, but he did not look to Cain and his offering. And Cain was very wroth, and his face fell. And Yahuwah said to Cain, why is he wroth towards you? And why is your face fallen? Is it not if you do good, you are to be accepted? And if you do not do good, towards the door is crime. He is laying, and towards you is his desire. And you must rule over him. And Cain told Habal his brother. And it came to be when they were in the field that Cain rose up against Habal his brother and killed him.
Barak Yahuwah. Now here in chapter 4, it says that Adam knew Kua, meaning he went into her, he had relations with her, and she conceived and bore Cain. Now we understand that this is after chapter 3, and so this is after the fall. This is after the fall. Now, what we must understand is that mankind was not created to produce children in this way. Animals were, but mankind was not created to produce children in this way, for him to physically go in to his woman. That mankind was not created to produce in this way. But what we see here in chapter 4 is, again, his redemption plan being played out in plain sight. It's YAHUAH'S redemption plan being played out in plain sight. The first fruit of the soil represents what? Represents Adam. It represents mankind. The first fruit of the soil represents Adam, who is mankind. He was the first fruit coming from the soil, belonging to the Father. He is firstborn. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Now, here we find Habal offering a lamb, offering a sheep, which also represents what? Mankind. But now this represents the fallen state of mankind. It still represents mankind, but this animal represents the fallen state of mankind, because now we are reproducing via animalistic lust. So it points towards mankind coming from the soil, and then pointing toward the fallen state of man, how now we are reproducing via animalistic lust. We're coming together now physically, and we were never supposed to come together this way. Either case, both are a representation of mankind. And so here, Abba Yahuwah has given the first fruit of the soil, which represents Adam, which represents mankind, and the first to split the womb. He has given this to mankind so that what? So that he will not instantly consume us. So that he will not instantly consume us, because now there's a judgment in place. Yes, there is. There's a judgment in place, because he gave instruction to Adam and Kua that of every tree of the garden you may partake of, except the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. For the day that you partake of that fruit is the day that you will die. Now, what did he do when they partook of the fruit? Our loving, compassionate Father renewed the everlasting covenant with them. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He slew 2 animals, and he clothed them with the skins of those animals. And he renewed the everlasting covenant with them. He did not destroy them. He did not consume them, but he renewed his everlasting covenant with us, because his love is everlasting towards us. And so that the judgment will not take place on their children, so that he will not instantly consume them until Yahshua came, until he came himself in the flesh of man to die for man, so that he would not instantly consume us. He says, listen, bring me the first fruit of your soil. That's mine. Yeah, because Adam is the first fruit of the soil. He is mine. So bring me the first fruit so I won't consume you. And bring me the first that splits the womb, so that I won't consume you, so that I won't kill you. So you do this as a caretaker. Yes, this is the letter. This is the letter. You do, and it points, and it's a shadow towards the HaMashiach. You do this, you keep this letter until Yahshua comes, so that I won't destroy you, so that I won't kill you. Yes, yes. But it all points towards Adam, mankind, his first fruit, his firstborn, in which you and I too are firstborn, are first fruits, if we have been reborn and recreated in the same manner in which Adam was born and created. Yes, this is the Spirit. This is what it points towards, us. Not some grain, not some grain. It points towards man coming from the ground, being created from the ground as first fruit, as firstborn, as firstborn. And the animals, the firstborn of the animals, point towards us. They took our place so that he would not instantly consume us. We're still learning. Abel's still uncovering this. There's still much more to speak about. He's still uncovering this as that applies to first fruits, as this applies to first fruits. Give us another precept, little one.
Deuteronomy 22:9.
Deuteronomy 22:9. Now, this should bring a heightened awareness of this text. You should now, again, begin to understand that the Torah, it ain't been done away with, but it is comprised of childlike instructions that are given to children to teach us deeper spiritual matters. Now, Deuteronomy 22 what? 9 are to have a different meaning, or to have a new meaning to you now. It ought to have a new meaning to you. Your understanding now should be deeper. It should be better now. Now that Abba has explained this small portion to us. Now reading here in Deuteronomy 22, Dabarim, chapter 22, verse 9. Deuteronomy, Dabarim, chapter 22, verse 9. Come on, read, little one.
You shall not sow your vineyard with diverse seeds, lest the fruit of your seed which you have sown and the fruit of your vineyard be defiled.
You shall not sow your vineyard with diverse seed. Now the letter says what it says, and we still obey the letter. You don't put diverse seeds in the same hole, because all you're going to have is chaos. Now what this essentially points towards is we are to sow our seed in good soil. We are to sow what seed? What seed? The seed of men. The seed of men. This is all about the seed of men. You're to sow your seed in good soil, and to not sow your seed in diverse wicked women, lest the fruit of your field be defiled. Lest the fruit of your field be defiled. You're to find a good field. A good field. And you're not to sow your seed in, you're not to sow diverse seed in your field. In your field, you're not to sow diverse seed in your field. But this all points towards the earth being a field, the earth being a field, the soil of the earth being a field, and the first fruits of that soil being Adam, being mankind, pointing towards him, and this pointing towards first fruits, pointing towards the redemption of mankind. This is what it points towards, us being the first fruits, not some grain. The grain represents us, it's teaching us deeper spiritual matters because it came from the ground, as we came from the ground. This is what it's trying to teach us. The letter gonna kill many. It's gonna kill them dead, because they don't understand. They don't understand the deeper spiritual context of what the letter is trying to teach us. Come on, give us another precept, little one.
Sirach 26:19-21.
Sirach, and I'm going to give you a chance to find this for those of you who have Sirach. Sirach, chapter 26.
Yes, 19-21.
19-21. Sirach, chapter 26, verses 19-21. Sirach, chapter 26. Verses 19-21. Sirach, chapter 26, verses 19-21. Sirach, chapter 26, verses 19-21. Beginning at verse 19, little one, go ahead and read.
My son, keep the flower of your age sound.
Keep the flower of your age sound. Keep your virginity. Keep your virginity. This is the flower of your age. Keep it sound. Come on.
And give not your strength to strangers.
And give not your strength. Give not your seed to a strange, wicked woman. Come on.
When you have gotten a fruitful possession through all the field.
When you've gotten a fruitful possession. When you found a good field. Well, you found a good field. I told you this is about the soil and the fruit of the soil which we came from. We are the first fruits. When you have found a good field, what do you do?
Sow it with your own seed.
Sow it with your own seed. Sow it with your own seed. We're not talking about some barley and some wheat. We are the first fruits of the barley and of the wheat. Come on, get the context of what the Torah is trying to teach you. Get the context. Sow it. Sow your seed. Read it again, little one.
Sow it with your own seed.
Sow it with your own seed.
Trusting in the goodness of your stock.
Trusting in the goodness of your stock.
So your race which you leave shall be magnified.
So that the race that you leave will be magnified.
Having the confidence of their good descent.
Having the confidence of their good descent. First fruit is about the first fruit of the soil, and that points towards Adam, who was the first fruit of the soil, who was firstborn of all creation. And this first fruit, as in all the feasts, it points towards the redemption of mankind. First fruits, who are reborn and recreated in the same manner in which Adam was born and created. Perfect, recreated perfect as he was created perfect, born perfect, and reborn perfect as he was born perfect. Not of flesh, not of blood, but of water and of ruach. Because the earth was made out of water by water. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. So he was created not of flesh, not of blood, but of water and of ruach. The earth is water. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And so this is about the redemption of Adam, the redemption of his first fruit, the redemption of mankind. Come on, little one, give us another precept.
Yeah, Deuteronomy 21:15-17.
Deuteronomy 21. Dabarim 21. Deuteronomy 21. Verses 15 through 17. Deuteronomy, Dabarim 21. Verses 15 through 17. Deuteronomy, Dabarim chapter 21. Verses 15 through 17. Deuteronomy, Dabarim chapter 21. Verses 15 through 17. Beginning at verse 15. Read, little one.
When a man has two wives, one loved and the other unloved, and they have borne him children,
yes,
both the loved and the unloved, and the firstborn son is of her who is unloved, then it shall be on the day he makes his sons to inherit his possessions, he is not allowed to treat the son of the beloved wife as firstborn in the face of the son of the unloved, who is truly the firstborn, but he is to acknowledge the son of the unloved wife as the firstborn by giving him a double portion of all that he has.
A double portion of all that he has.
For he is the beginning of his strength. The right of the firstborn is his.
For he is the beginning of his father's strength. The right of the firstborn is his. Who we talking about? We're talking about Adam. Mankind. Being the beginning of his father's strength. And who is heir. Who is heir to the throne. Firstborn. Who is heir to the throne, first fruit, who is heir to the throne, the beginning of his father's strength. This is the Torah. It's truth in plain sight, pointing towards the Father's redemption plan for mankind, pointing towards his redemption plan for mankind, in that his firstborn is going to regain his status, is going to inherit, and is going to regain his rightful place. Regain his rightful place. And so first fruit being no different is about the redemption of mankind. It points towards Adam, the first fruits from the soil, the first fruit from the soil, who is firstborn, who is to get a double portion, yes, if you are born in like manner, reborn in like manner of Adam. This is key. This is key. We must be reborn. We must be reborn. To be first fruits, we must be reborn in the same manner in which Adam was born. And if we are first fruits, and we will inherit, and we will get a double portion. This is what first fruits is about. We're going to talk more about it. There's more to talk about. But Abba is laying the foundation. He is laying the foundation. He first showed us the letter. Now he's showing us the spirit. Now he's showing us the Spirit. Give us another precept, little one.
We have Genesis 48, 1 through 19.
Genesis, going back to the beginning. Genesis 48. Genesis chapter 48. Barashit chapter 48. Chapter 48, verse 1 through 19. Genesis chapter 48, verses 1 through 19. Genesis chapter 48, verses 1 through 19. Genesis, Barashit, chapter 48, 1 through 19. Barashit, Genesis, chapter 48, verses 1 through 19. Beginning at the first verse. Go ahead and read, little one.
And after these events, it came to be that it was said to YAHUAH'S, see, your father is sick. And he took with him his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And Yaakov was told, see, your son YAHUAH'S is coming to you. And Yasharal strengthened himself and sat up on the bed. And Yaakov said to YAHUAH'S, Al Shaddai appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan and blessed me and said to me, see, I am making you fruitful and shall increase you and make you of an assembly of people.
I'm making you what?
Of an assembly of people.
No, I'm making you fruitful. Is that what it said?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm making you fruitful. Yeah. This is about first fruit, being fruitful. You ain't first fruit if you ain't fruitful. No, and you can't be fruitful unless you're attached to the vine. We can do nothing outside of him. So to be first fruit means we must be fruitful. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And if we are fruitful, we are first fruit, and we will, well, I don't want to get ahead. I don't want to get ahead. Come on, read, little one.
And give this land to your seed after you as an everlasting possession. And now your two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, who were born to you in the land of Mitzrayim before I came to you in Mitzrayim, are mine, as Ra'aban and Shamaun, they are mine. Your offspring whom you shall bring forth after them are yours, and let them be called by the name of their brothers in their inheritance. And I, when I come from Padam, Rachel died beside me in the land of Canaan on the way, when there was but a little distance to go to Ephraim. And I buried her there on the way to Ephraim, that is by Lakam. And Yasharal saw YAHUAH'S sons and said, who are these? And YAHUAH said to his father, these are my sons whom Elohim has given me in this place. And he said, please bring them to me and let me bless them. And the eyes of Yasharal were dim with age, and he was unable to see. And he drew them near him and kissed them and embraced them. And Yasharal said to YAHUAH, I had not thought to see your face, but see, Elohim has also shown me your seed. So YAHUAH brought them from between his knees, and he bowed down with his face to the earth. And YAHUAH took them both, Ephraim with his right hand toward Yasharal's left hand, and Manasseh with his left hand toward Yasharal's right hand, and brought them near him. And Yasharal stretched out his hand and laid it on Ephraim's head, who was the younger, and his left hand on Manasseh's head, consciously directing his hand, for Manasseh was the firstborn. And he blessed YAHUAH and said, the Elohim before whom my fathers, Abraham and Ishmael, walked, the Elohim who has fed me all my life long to this day, the messenger who has redeemed me from all evil, bless the youths, and let my name be called upon them, and the name of my fathers, Abraham and Ishmael, and let them increase to a multitude in the midst of the earth. And when YAHUAH saw that his father laid his right hand on the head of Ephraim, it was evil in his eyes, and he took hold of his father's hand to remove it from the head of Ephraim to the head of Manasseh. And YAHUAH said to his father, not so, my father, for this one is the firstborn. Put your right hand on his head. But his father refused and said, I know, my son, I know. He also becomes a people, and he is also great. And yet his younger brother is greater than he, and his seed is to become the completeness of the nations.
And his seed is to become the completeness of the nations. This is Ephraim. This is Ephraim. This is Ephraim. Now, Yaakov here, he blesses the boys. He speaks a blessing, but not just any blessing, not just any barakah. What blessing does he do? He passes on the inheritance to these boys. The firstborn blessing, the firstborn barakah, the firstborn inheritance, he passes on to these boys. But Manasseh was the oldest, and Ephraim was the youngest. He did not put his hand on his right hand on the head of Manasseh, indicative of him being firstborn, but instead he places it on the head of Ephraim, or Ephraim, and his left hand upon the head of Manasseh. indicating that the inheritance that was given to Adam, yes, the inheritance that was given to Adam, the first fruit from the soil, the firstborn, is now passing upon the head of Ephraim, of Ephraim. Not ironically, the name Ephraim means what? Doubly fruitful. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. The fruit from the soil. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Through Yasha'al, through Abraham, he's going to make his seed as the stars of the Shamayim, through his Ruach, born not of flesh, not of blood, but of water and of Ruach. He is reconciling the nations, mankind, back to himself through Yasha'al, through Ephraim. Through Ephraim, yes. He said that Ephraim, you're going to be the completeness of the nations. Ephraim represents the Gentiles. Ephraim represents the nations. Yes, he does. Yes, he does. He represents Adam, because Ephraim is firstborn. Adam is firstborn. He represents Adam. He represents mankind. And his name means doubly fruitful. This is about the reconciliation of all mankind. This is about the redemption of mankind. This is what first fruit is about. This is what first fruit is about. Now, we're going to talk more about this, but I pray that Abba is opening up your understanding. Ephraim is the nations. He's the Gentiles. He's the completion of the nations. And his name means doubly fruitful. He is firstborn. He is firstborn, the first fruit from the soil. He represents Adam. He represents mankind. Come on, little one, give us another precept.
We have Matthew 1:18-25.
Matthew 1. Matthew, Matat Yahu. Matat Yahu. Matthew. Again, I'm not speaking Hebrew. I'm not speaking Hebrew. I've had people on YouTube say, could you please speak English? I'm not making fun of you. I'm simply telling you, I'm not speaking Hebrew. I'm speaking English. I am speaking English. I truly am. This is Matat Yahu is a transliterated Hebrew word, transliterated into the English tongue, making the same phonetic sound and having the same meaning of the Hebrew word using English and Latin letters. And so it's actually Matat Yahu, not Matthew, Matat Yahu, but you know it as Matthew, but it is more accurately Matat Yahu, Matat Yahu. Matthew, Matat Yahu, chapter 1. Chapter 1, verses
18-25.
Verses 18-25. Matat Yahu. Matat Yahu. Matthew, chapter 1. Chapter 1, verses 18-25. Matat Yahu, chapter 1. Matthew, chapter 1, verses 18-25. Line upon line, precept upon precept. Here a little, there a little. Abba is going to teach us what first fruit means. What first fruit means. Not according to the letter, but according to the Ruach. Matat Yahu, Matthew, chapter 1. Beginning at verse 18 and reading down through verse 25. Beginning at verse 18. Come on, read, little one.
But the birth of Yahushua Mashiach was as follows. After his mother Mariam was engaged to Yahushua, before they came together, she was found to be pregnant from the Kadush root. And Yahushua, her husband, being righteous and not wishing to make a show of her, had in mind to put her away secretly. But while he thought about this, see, a messenger of Yahuwah appeared to him in a dream, saying, Yahushua, son of Daud, do not be afraid to take Mariam as your wife, for that which is in her was brought forth from the Kadush root. And she shall give birth to a son, and you shall call his name Yahushua, for he shall save his people from their crimes. And all this came to be in order to fulfill what was spoken by Yahuwah through the prophet, saying, see, an Alma shall conceive, and she shall give birth to a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which translated means all with us. And Yahushua, awaking from his sleep, did as the messenger of Yahuwah commanded him, and took his wife, but knew her not until she gave birth to her son, the firstborn, and called his name Yahusha. The firstborn, and called his name Yahusha. Now, this is Yahuwah in flesh, who came as who? Who came as his firstborn Adam, and by extension as his firstborn Yasha'al,
who is what? The representation of mankind. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. This redemption plan is being played out within the nation of Yashar'al and within his righteous Torah. The redemption plan for mankind is being played out within Yashar'al and within his righteous Torah. And so he came as firstborn, as his firstborn son, Adam, in order to redeem him from death. Adam, again, meaning mankind. Mankind. Adam was born not of flesh, not of blood, but of water and of Ruach. Maryam, he was not conceived. The Mashiach was not conceived of man, but he was conceived of Ruach. And so he was conceived and born where he was conceived in the same manner in which Adam was conceived. He had to be conceived this way so that he would be born perfect in the same way that Adam was born perfect, so that he could walk in the footsteps of Adam, walking a sinless life, and then dying, thus satisfying the judgment that was pronounced over Adam, but because he died sinless and blameless, now the judgment having been played out, but having died sinless and blameless, now Abba, being righteous, must resurrect him because he's an innocent man. He died innocently. He had no crime. He had no sin. He had to resurrect him being righteous, and not just him, but in his resurrection, all who believe in him, all who believe in his name and believe in his death, and who are buried with him, who die with him, and who are buried with him, and who are resurrected with him, they too are resurrected to the newness of life as what? As first fruit. As first fruit. Yes. Was he not put in the ground? Yes, he was. He was put in the ground from the place in which Adam came from. He was put in the ground and resurrected as first fruit. Yes, he was. Yes, he was. And when we are in him and he in us, and we are immersed in his name, and we are impaled with him, and when we are buried with him, and we are resurrected to the newness of life, we too are what? We too come up from the ground. We are resurrected as first fruits. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. And what does that mean? That means that we can be waved before the Father as first fruits. This is what this is all about. Being reconciled back to him and being presented to him as a pure first fruit offering. Firstborn, being waved before our Father as a first fruit. Who is the high priest? The first fruit belongs to him. Yes, it does. The wave offering belongs to him. Belongs to him. So he came as firstborn. This is what first fruit is all about. It's not about some grain. Understand. Adam was the first fruit from the soil. Come on, little one. Give us another precept.
We got Colossians 1, 12 through 15.
Colossians 1. Colossians chapter 1. Line upon line, precept upon precept. Here a little, there a little. Colossians 1. Colossians 1, verses 12 through 15. Colossians chapter 1, verses 12 through 15. Colossians chapter 1, verses 12 through 15. Colossians chapter 1, verses 12 through 15. Beginning at verse 12. Come on, read, little one.
Giving thanks to the Father who has made us fit to share in the inheritance of the Kadosh ones in the light, who has delivered us from the authority of darkness and transferred us into the reign of the Son of his love, in whom we have redemption through his blood, the forgiveness of crime, who is the likeness of the invisible Elohim, the firstborn of all creation.
The firstborn of all creation. You see, he said, separate me all firstborn, both of man and beast. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He is the firstborn of all creation. He not only came as Adam, the firstborn, the first fruit from the soil, the firstborn. He not only came as Adam, but he came as the firstborn of all creation in order to reconcile all creation back to the Father. In order to reconcile all creation, all mankind, and all creation back to the Father. Line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. We're not going to speak much more about that. Come on, give us another precept, little one.
We got John 20, 1 through 28.
John, now, let's get into some more meat. Oh, don't you love meat, little one? Right. I love meat. I love meat. Barak Yahuwah, don't get that confused with me being a glutton just because I say I love meat. Yes, I love meat, but I'm not a glutton. Don't get it confused. They call my master a glutton because he came eating and drinking. But he was not a glutton. Barak Yahuwah. Barak Yahuwah. John chapter 20, verses 1 through 18.
1 through 28.
Oh, I'm sorry, 1 through 28. Thank you, little one. John, YAHUAH'S, in the transliterated English tongue, YAHUAH'S, commonly called John, chapter 20, verses 1 through 28. John, YAHUAH'S, chapter 20, verses 1 through 28. John, chapter 20, YAHUAH'S, chapter 20, verses 1 through 28. Beginning at verse 1. Come on, let's get some meat, some more meat, little one.
And on day 1 of the week, Mariam from Magdala came early to the tomb while it was still dark, and saw that the stone had been removed from the tomb. So she ran and came to Shammah Kapha and to the other taught one whom Yahusha loved, and said to them, They have taken the master out of the tomb, and we do not know where they laid him. Then Kapha and the other taught one went out, and they were going to the tomb. And the two were running together, but the other taught one outran Kapha and came to the tomb first. And stooping down, he saw the linen wrappings lying, but he did not go in. Then Shammah Kapha came following him and went into the tomb. And he saw the linen wrappings lying, and the cloth which had been on his head not lying with the linen wrappings, but folded up in a place by itself. So then the other taught one who came to the tomb first also went in, and he saw and believed. For they did not yet know the scripture that he has to rise again from the dead. Therefore the taught ones went away again by themselves. But Mariam was standing outside by the tomb weeping. Then as she wept, she stooped down to the tomb and saw 2 messengers in white sitting, one at the head and the other at the feet where the body of Yahusha had been laid. And they said to her, Woman, why do you weep? She said to them, Because they took away my master, and I do not know where they laid him. And having said this, she turned around and saw Yahusha standing, but she did not know that it was Yahusha.
She saw Yahusha standing, but she did not know this was Yahusha. Now, he was buried in the ground, in the earth. Yeah, he was buried in the earth, in the ground, for 3 days and 3 nights. But he rose as a first fruit, coming from the ground, coming as Adam. Coming as Adam, and more accurately as the second Adam. Coming as Adam, being resurrected from the earth as first fruit. As first fruit. Now all who are in him, he and them, us and him, are first fruit. And now we can be presented to the Father as an acceptable first fruit wave offering. As an acceptable first fruit wave offering. Not only that, and we're going to get further into this, not only that now, in accordance with the Torah, our ancestors could not partake of the new harvest until they had presented a wave offering before the master, before Yahuwah. Before the master. Now, I don't want to get ahead of myself. But we're going, this is contained here in this meat. But our ancestors could not partake of the new harvest until a wave offering had been presented to Yahuwah by the priest. Come on, read, little one.
Yahusha said to her, Woman, why do you weep? Whom do you seek? Thinking he was the gardener, she said to him, Master, if you have carried him away, say to me where you put him, and I shall take him away. Yahusha said to her, Mariam. She turned and said to him, Rabboni, which means teacher. Yahusha said to her, Do not hold on to me. Do not hold on to me. Why? For I have not yet ascended to my Father. For I have not yet ascended to my Father. As what? As a wave offering. It ain't about some wheat. It's about us. We are that fruit that comes from the ground. As a wave offering. I have not yet presented myself to the Father as a first fruit wave offering. Because when I do that, when I show myself to the Father as a blameless, perfect wave offering, first fruit, firstborn, then guess what? Then my Father now, me, can partake of the new harvest. Yes, he can. He can partake of the rest of the harvest. This is the meat of it. This is the spirit of it. And he told her not to hang on to him, not to defile me,
Because your hands are defiled. I have a new resurrected body, which is blameless and perfect. So don't hang on to me. Because I have not presented myself to the Father as a perfect, blameless first fruit offering yet to wave myself before him. Come on, read, little one.
But go to my brothers and say to them, I am ascending to my father and your father, and to my Elohim and your Elohim. Mariam from Magdala came announcing to the taught ones that she had seen the master, and that he had told her this. When therefore it was evening on that day, day
same day, day one of the week,
and when the doors were shut where the taught ones met for fear of the Yahudim, Yahusha came and stood in the midst and said to them, Shalom to you. And having said this, he showed them his hands and his side.
Stop right there, little one. For those that don't understand, he did not rise on day one of the week or Sunday. When they went to the tomb, the stone of the tomb had already been rolled away. In accordance with the Torah, in accordance with Daniel 9:27, he died in the middle of the week. And in accordance with the scriptures, he was to be in the grave, in the ground, 3 days and 3 nights. The fourth day of the week being Wednesday, being the middle of the week, the fourth day, fifth day, and sixth day. He was in the ground, and he rose on the Shabbat. He rose on the seventh day. When they went to the tomb towards the first day of the week, he was already gone. He was already gone. But when they, towards the first day of the week, meaning that the sun had not risen yet. But when the sun had risen on the first day of the week, that's when Mary Magdala, or Mariam Magdala, saw the master. I had to clear that up. Come on, little one.
The taught ones therefore rejoiced when they saw the master. Then Yahusha said to them again, Shalom to you. As the Father has sent me, I also send you. And having said this, he breathed on them and said to them, receive the Kadush Ruch. If you forgive the sins of any, they are forgiven them. If you retain the sins of any, they have been retained. But Tamar called the twin, one of the 12, was not with them.
Hold on, right there, little one, just a minute. Now, what you will notice right here, no one touched him. No one touched him here. He told Mary Magdala, do not touch me, for I have not yet ascended to the Father. On that same day in the evening, he appeared in the midst of them, and he breathed on them and said, receive the Ruach HaKadosh. No one touched him here. No one touched him because he had not yet ascended to the Father. Now here, Thuma, called twin, he refuses to believe because he was not there. He was not there. Now come on, keep reading, little one.
So the other taught ones said to him, we have seen the master. But he said to them, unless I see in his hands the mark of the nails, and put my finger into the imprints of the nails, and put my hand into his side, I shall by no means believe. And after 8 days, his taught ones were again inside. After
8 days. Now this was the first day of the week. This was the first day of the week. A week from that day was first fruit, which we're going to celebrate tomorrow. A week, 7 days from that day is first fruit. It's first fruit. So now on first fruit, he did what? He ascended. He ascended and presented himself to the Father as a wave offering, as a perfect first fruit wave offering on behalf of his first fruit, of his firstborn son, Adam, whom he came as. Now, 8 days later, read, little one.
His taught ones were again inside, and Toma with them. Yahusha came, the doors having been shut, and he stood in the midst and said, Shalom to you. Then he said to Toma, bring your finger here.
Bring your finger here. First he said, don't touch me, because I ain't ascended to the Father yet to present myself as a first fruit offering, as a firstborn offering, perfect, blameless, but being waved before the Father on your behalf. Now he says, put your finger here. Come on.
And see my hands, and bring your hand and put it into my side.
Put it here.
And do not be unbelieving, but believing. And Toma answered and said to him, my master and my Elohim.
My master and my Elohim. First fruit is about the redemption of mankind. The Mashiach presented himself as first fruit, as firstborn, on behalf of Adam, on behalf of mankind. And so now an acceptable wave offering has been made. And so now the Father can partake of the new harvest. Yes, he can. Yes, he can. There's more. There's more. Come on, let's eat some more, little one. Give him another precept.
We have 1 Corinthians 15, 20 to 27.
1 Corinthians chapter 15. What verses?
20 to 27.
20 to 27. 1 Corinthians chapter 15. Verses 20 to 27. 1 Corinthians chapter 15. verses 20 to 27. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, chapter 20 to 27. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verses 20 through 27. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, chapter 15, verses 20 through 27. Beginning at chapter 20. Read, little one.
But now Mashiach has been raised from the dead and has become the first fruit.
Has become what?
The first fruit.
They didn't believe us. Become what?
The first fruit.
Come on.
Of those having fallen asleep.
He came from the ground. He came from the ground as first fruit. As first fruit. And as first fruit coming from the ground, the first to come from the ground, he presented himself as Adam before the Father as an acceptable first fruit offering, as an acceptable wave offering. Come on, read, little one.
For since death is through a man, the resurrection of the dead is also through a man. For as all die in Adam, so also all shall be made alive in Mashiach, and each in his own order. Mashiach the first fruit, then those who are of Mashiach at his coming, then the end, when he delivers up the reign to Elohim the Father, when he has brought to naught all rule and all authority and all power, for he has to reign until he has put all enemies under his feet. The last enemy to be brought to naught is death, for he has put all under his feet. But when he says all are put under him, it is clear that he who puts all under him is accepted.
Barak Yahuwah. So, listen, the living Torah is coming back during the millennial reign. It's going to reign for 1,000 years. Why? Because there's still going to be a need for an offering in accordance with the Torah. Why? Because death would have not been put under his feet yet. Death will not be put under his feet until the earth and the Shamayim passes away, and there is a new earth and a new Shamayim. And so because there will still be death in the millennial reign, not with his first fruit, but with the remnant of mankind, there will still be a need for an offering. And this is why he is coming in the body of the Hamashiach during the millennial reign. Because the earth will still be here. The earth has been given to flesh, and he's coming in flesh. The earth has been given to flesh. And so he must come in this fleshly form because there are legalities. The earth has been given to flesh and blood. But when we move into eternity, the last great day, that is not given to flesh and blood. That is given to Ruach. And this is when all flesh will die, because flesh and blood cannot inherit the reign of Shamayim. And so he is going to reign. He is going to reign in this form. Yahuwah is going to reign in this form, in fleshly form, until all has been put underneath his feet. After everything has been put underneath his feet, the last thing being death, then, in accordance with 1 John in the 3rd chapter, where it says, we do not know yet what we will be, but when we see him, when we see Yahuwah, we shall see him as he is, because we shall be like him. That's eternity. That is when we will move into eternity. But going back, I bring your attention back again to he being first fruit. The first fruit of the resurrection, the first fruit from the soil. The first fruit from the soil. As Adam was brought from the soil, he was resurrected from the soil, thus paying the penalty and being resurrected perfectly, and thus being presented before the Father as a perfect first fruit wave offering on behalf of Adam, on behalf of mankind. And so now Yahuwah, the high priest, can now partake of the new harvest. Of the new harvest. Come on, read, little one.
We have Romans 6, 1 through 4.
Romans 6, 1 through 4. Romans chapter 6, 1 through 4. Romans 6, verses 1 through 4. Romans chapter 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 6, verses 1 through 4. Beginning at verse 1. Come on, read, little one.
What then shall we say?
Yes.
Shall we continue in crime to let favor increase?
Yes.
Let it not be.
Uh-huh.
How shall we who died to crime still live in it?
Uh-huh.
Or do you not know that as many as us as were immersed into Mashiach Yahusha
Uh-huh.
were immersed into his death?
Yes.
We were therefore buried with him through immersion into
Uh-huh.
death, that as Mashiach was raised from the dead by the esteem of the Father, so also we shall walk in the newness of life.
Barak Yahuwah. Now, those who are of the regeneration in this time, in this muadah, in this appointed time. Now, there are many who say that they have been born again, but there are not many who has truly been converted. No, no, sir, no, ma'am. There are not many who have been truly converted. But in this time, in this muadah, in this appointed time, if we have been truly converted, the text says here that we have died. Yes, we have. We have been impaled with him through immersion, through what the nations call baptism. We have been impaled with him. We have died with him through the immersion in his name, in the name of Yahusha. And we have been buried with him. We have been placed back in the soil. I told you it's all about Ruach. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's all about Ruach. We have been buried with him in the soil. And we have been resurrected as firstfruits. Yes, we have. Yes, we have. Those who have been truly converted in this season have been resurrected and reborn as firstfruits. They don't believe me, little one. They don't believe me. But I was going to show him in his word. Yes, it does. Yes, he will. We have been resurrected as firstfruits. Come on, little one. Give us another precept.
We have John 1, 11 through 13.
John chapter 1, verses 11 through 13. YAHUAH'S chapter 1, verse 11 through 13. John, YAHUAH'S chapter 1, verse 11 through 13. YAHUAH'S, John chapter 1, verse 11, verses 11 through 13. John, YAHUAH'S chapter 1, verses 11 through 13. Beginning at verse 11. Come on, read, little one.
He came to his own, and his own did not receive him.
Yes.
But as many as received him, to them he gave the authority to become children of Elohim. To those believing in his name, who were born not of blood,
yes,
nor of the desire of flesh,
yes,
nor of the desire of man, but of Elohim.
But of Elohim. But of Elohim. Not of flesh, not of blood, nor of the desire of man, but of Elohim. In the same way that Adam was born, not of man, not of the desire of man, not of flesh, nor of blood, but of Elohim. Being born of water and of Ruach. And if we are reborn in this way, then it's Adam is the first fruit from the soil. We too are first fruits from the soil. We are first fruits from death. We are first fruits from the soil. Come on, little one. Give us another precept.
Galatians 7, 1 through 8.
Galatians 7.
No, Revelations.
Revelations. I'm sorry. Revelations 7.
1 through 8.
1 through 8. Revelation 7. 1 through 8. Revelation 7. Verses 1 through 8. We're almost done. Revelation 7. Verses 1 through 8. Revelation 7. Verses 1 through 8. Revelation 7. Verses 1 through 8. Begin at verse 1. Come on, read, little one.
And after this I saw 4 messengers standing at the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another messenger coming up from the rising of the sun, holding the seal of the living Elohim.
Holding the seal of the living Elohim, having his name written upon their foreheads. These are those who are separated. These are those who are of the regeneration. These are first fruits. First fruits from the ground, first fruits from the soil. Yes, they are born not of flesh, not of blood, but of water and of Ruach, having the seal of the living Elohim upon their forehead. Come on, little one, read.
And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 messengers to whom it was given to harm the earth and the sea, saying, do not harm the earth, nor the sea, nor the trees, until we have sealed the servants of our Elohim upon their foreheads. And I heard the number of those who were sealed, 144,000 sealed out of all the tribes of the children of Yasharal. Of the tribe of Yehuda, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Ra'aban, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Gad, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Asher, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Naphtali, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Manasseh, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Shamaun, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Lewi, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Yashakar, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Zabulon, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Yahusah, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Banyaman, 12,000 were sealed.
Barak Yahuwah, Barak Yahuwah. Give us another precept, little one. They've heard this before, but let Abba give them some more meat now. Revelation 14, right?
Yes.
In its entirety. Revelation 14 in its entirety. Revelation 14 in its entirety. In its entirety. Barak Yahuwah. Beginning at verse 1 of Revelation 14 in its entirety. Come on, little one.
And I looked and saw a lamb standing on Mount Zion.
And I looked and saw a lamb. Understand the context. This is the high priest. This is the Kohen Gadol standing on Mount Zion. This is the Kohen Gadol, whom according to the Torah is to what? Bring the wave sheaf into the place and wave it before the Father. This is our Kohen Gadol in the order of Melchizedek, the Lamb, Yahusha HaMashiach, standing on Mount Zion. Who's there with him, little one?
And with him 144,000, having his father's name written upon their
Having his
foreheads.
father's name written upon their foreheads. Come on.
And I heard a voice out of the heaven,
Yes.
like the voice of many waters, and like the voice of thunder. And I heard the sound of harpists playing their harps. And they sang a renewed song before the throne, and before 4 living creatures and the elders. And no one was able to learn that song except 144,000 who were redeemed from the earth.
Who were redeemed from the earth. Now the Hebrew word for earth, well, the transliterated Hebrew word for earth is aratz. Aratz. A-R-A-T-Z, or sometimes spelled T-S. But it means earth. It means soil. It means land. Earth, soil, land. These are the first who have been redeemed, first fruits, who have been redeemed from the soil and presented to the Father as first fruits, as a wave offering, and are presented to the Father as a wave offering by the Kohen Gadol, by the high priest, Yahushua HaMashiach, in the order of Melchizedek. Get the shadow. Get the shadow. Understand the shadow. Come on, read, little one.
They are those who are not defiled with women, for they are maidens.
Yes.
They are those following the Lamb wherever he leads them on.
These are those born not of flesh, of blood, but of water and of ruach, who have been separated in this season, who have been truly converted, and who are first fruits, who are firstborn, not according to the flesh, but according to the ruach, and now here being waved as a wave offering before the Father. An acceptable wave offering being presented to the Father by the Kohen Gadol, Yahushua HaMashiach, who is Yahuwah. Come on, read, little one.
They were redeemed from among men, being first fruits to Elohim.
Being what?
First fruits to Elohim.
Being what?
First fruits to
See, they didn't believe. They didn't believe. It's not about some grain. That points toward man. Man being the first fruit from the soil, and these 144,000 being the first fruit, being redeemed from the soil of the earth, and being presented as a first fruit offering, being waved as an acceptable, perfect first fruit offering to the Father, giving a song that no one else can sing. Barak Yahuwah. Come on, read, little one.
And to the Lamb. And in their mouth was found no falsehood, for they are blameless before the throne of Elohim. And I saw another messenger flying in mid-heaven.
Now listen, here's the contrast to that. Here's the contrast. And we're going to precept this in a minute. But here's the contrast to that. Come on, read, little one.
Holding the everlasting good news to announce to those dwelling on earth, even to every nation and tribe and tongue.
Every to who?
To every nation and tribe and tongue.
Every nation, tribe, and tongue. This sounds like the completeness of the nations to me. This sounds like Ephraim. Come on.
And people saying with a loud voice, fear Elohim and give esteem to him, because the hour of his judgment has come. And worship him who made the heaven and the earth and sea, and fountains of water. And another messenger followed, saying, Babel is fallen, that great city, because she has made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her whoring. And a third messenger followed them, saying with a loud voice, if anyone worships the beast and his image, and receives his mark upon his forehead or upon his head, he also shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Elohim, which is poured out undiluted into the cup of his wrath. And he shall be tortured with fire and sulfur before the Kadosh messengers and before the Lamb. And the smoke of their torture goes up forever and ever. And they have no rest day and night, those worshiping the beast and his image. Also, if anyone receives the mark of his name. Here is the endurance of the Kadosh ones. Here are those guarding the commands of Elohim and the belief of Yahushua. And I heard a voice out of heaven saying to me, right, blessed are the dead who die in the Master from now on. Yes, says the Rook, in order that they rest from their labors, and their works follow with them. And I looked and saw a white cloud, and sitting on the cloud was one like the son of Adam, having on his head a golden crown, and in his hand a sharp sickle. And another messenger came out of the dwelling place, crying with a loud voice to the one sitting on the cloud.
Oh, harvest time, harvest time, harvest time. Come on, little one.
Send your sickle and reap, because the hour has come for you to reap. Because the harvest of the earth is ripe. And the one sitting on the cloud thrust in his sickle on the earth, and the earth was reaped. And another messenger came out of the dwelling place which is in heaven, and he too had a sharp sickle. And another messenger came out from the slaughter place, having authority over the fire. And he cried with a loud voice, with a loud cry to him having the sharp sickle, saying, send your sharp sickle and gather the cluster of the vine of the earth, because her grapes are ripe. And the messenger thrust his sickle into the earth and gathered the vine of the earth and threw it into the great winepress of the wrath of Elohim. And the winepress was trodden outside the city, and blood came out of the winepress up into the bridles of the horses for about 1,600 stadia.
Oh, Barak Yahuwah, harvest time, harvest time. But before that harvest time, there was another harvest. There was a first fruit harvest. There was a remnant within the remnant who were redeemed from the soil, being the first fruits from the soil, who were found on Mount Zion, being presented as a wave offering, in which the first fruit that we are going to celebrate tomorrow is a shadow of. It is a shadow of the remnant within the remnant being presented to the Father as a wave offering by the Kohen Gadol, being an acceptable first fruit offering. Indeed, it was spoken that there is a different first fruit offering after that, and that's called the Feast of Weeks. That's called Pentecost in the English tongue, or Shabua'ut in the transliterated English tongue. Shabua'ut, the Feast of Weeks, is another first fruit celebration, in which we just read here that there was a sickle swung. In preceding it, it said, Baruch, blessed are those who die from now on in the Hamashiach, Barak Yahuwah. Then there was a sickle swung, and these were harvested. Yes, they were. These were harvested. But then there was a second harvest, but it didn't turn out so well with them. I told you it's all about the harvest. It's not about some grapes. It's not about some wine. We are the harvest. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. The letter going to kill a lot of you. It's going to kill you dead. It's going to kill you dead. But there was a second harvest in which it didn't turn out so well with them, in which these grapes were thrown in the wine press, and it came out as blood, and it flowed up to the horse's bridle. You see, these are the ones that were following the beast. These are the ones that were worshiping the beast, and who had taken his name upon the head and upon the right hand, which is indicative of worship. It has nothing to do with a mark. It is indicative of worship. These are the ones that were worshiping the beast. And we can find a precept to this in Revelation 19. But these were the ones who were worshiping the beast, who in Revelation 19 we find going out to fight the master. But the first harvest were those who had died in the Hamashiach, who had some had been beheaded and some had been killed in the fires of the great tribulation. But they were reaped first. In other words, first. In other words, they too were first fruits, and they came from every nation, tribe, and tongue. This is a representation of mankind. This is a representation of Adam. This is a representation of Ephraim, the completeness of the nations of Ephraim, coming out the great distress, having washed their robes, Barak Yahuwah, and who are now being resurrected in the first resurrection, cometh up out of the soil as first fruits, in which Pentecost, Shabua'u, the Feast of Weeks, which is a wheat festival, is a shadow of. Come on, little one, let's get more meat.
You got Revelation 7, 9 through 17.
Now, let's go back to Revelation 7. Let's go back to Revelation 7, and we're going to read now verses 9 through 17. Revelation 7, the rest of Revelation 7, verses 9 through 17. Now, in reading Revelation 7, verses 1 through 8, what you're going to notice, and those of you who on Zoom, you already know this, but who you will find missing in the 144,000 is who? It's Ephraim, whom is firstborn. Yes, he is. Who is firstborn, who is Adam, who is the representation of Adam, mankind, whom the inheritance is given to. He is not in the number of the 144,000. The firstborn is not there. Ephraim is not there. Mankind, Adam, is not there. And neither is Dan. Neither is Dan or Don. He's not there. But here now, beginning at verse 9, we find Ephraim, who is also firstborn, who is first fruit. Yes, he is. Who is also firstborn and first fruit. We find him here in Revelation 7, beginning at verse 9 through 17. Come on, read, little one.
After this I looked and saw a great crowd which no one was able to count, out of all nations and tribes and peoples and tongues.
Out of all nations and tribes and peoples and tongues. This is Ephraim. This is Ephraim. This is firstborn. This is Adam. This is first fruit. Come on.
Standing before the throne and before the Lamb.
Yes.
Dressed in white robes and palm branches in their hands. And crying out with a loud voice, saying, deliverance belongs to our Elohim.
Yes.
Who sits on the throne and to the Lamb. And all the messengers stood around the throne, and the elders and the four living creatures, and fell on their faces before the throne and worshipped Elohim, saying, Amen. The blessing and the esteem and the wisdom and the thanksgiving and the respect and the power and the might to our Elohim forever and ever. Amen. And one of the elders responded, saying to me, who are those dressed in white robes, and where did they come from? And I said to him, Master, you know. And he said to me, these are those coming out of the great distress, having washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Because of this, they are before the throne of Elohim and serve him day and night in his dwelling place. And he who sits on the throne shall spread his tent over them. They shall no longer more be thirsty anymore, neither shall the sun strike them, nor any heat, because the Lamb who was in the midst of the throne shall shepherd them and lead them to fountains of waters of life, and Elohim shall wipe away every tear from their eyes.
Barak Yahuwah. This is Ephraim, coming out of the nations, every nation, tribe, and tongue, the completeness of the nations. This is Ephraim. This is Ephraim. He too is firstborn. He represents Adam. He represents mankind. He is the Gentiles. He is the nations. This is Ephraim. He is first fruit. He is first fruit. He is firstborn. Now let's read a little bit more about Ephraim. Let's read a little bit more about Ephraim. Now in Ephraim is included all of the rest of the tribes of Yashar'al. It includes Dan and all of the rest of the tribes of Yashar'al and the remnant of mankind as well. And the remnant of mankind as well. This is all mankind here. Ephraim is all mankind. There's only 12,000 per tribe in the 144,000. Ephraim is the rest. Ephraim is the rest. Ephraim is the rest of the firstborn, the first fruit, the firstborn coming out of the great distress. Let's learn a little bit more about Ephraim. Come on, let's get some more, little one.
Okay, we got Revelation 21 through 6.
Revelation 20, verses 1 through 6. Revelation 20, verses 1 through 6. These are those whom we just read about. Come on, read.
And I saw a messenger coming down from the heaven, having the key to the pit of the deep, a great chain in his hand. And he seized the dragon, the serpent of old, who is the devil and Hashatan, and bound him for 1,000 years. And he threw him into the pit of the deep and shut him up, and set a seal on him, so that he should not lead the nations no more astray until the 1,000 years were ended. And after this he has to be released for a little while. And I saw thrones, and they sat on them, and judgment was given to them, and the lives of those who had been beheaded because of the witness they bore to Yahusha.
And the lives of those who have been beheaded because of the witness that they bore of Yahusha.
And because of the word of Elohim.
And because of the word of Elohim.
And who did not worship the beast nor his image.
And who did not worship the beast or his image. These are those who haven't washed their robes coming out of the great distress. Come on.
And did not receive his mark upon their foreheads.
And did not receive his mark upon their foreheads.
Or upon their hands. And they lived and reigned with Mashiach for 1,000 years. And the rest of the dead did not come to life until the 1,000 years were ended. This is the first resurrection. Blessed and Kadosh is the one having part in the first resurrection. The second, death possesses no authority over these, but they shall be priests of Elohim and of Mashiach, and shall reign with him 1,000 years.
I told you Ephraim was first fruit too. Yes, I did. Ephraim is first fruit. He is firstborn. He is now coming back to life. He's coming up out of the dust. He is coming up out of the dust. And the first resurrection, the first fruits who are coming up out of the dust in the first resurrection, this is when two sticks become one. This is when Judah and Ephraim become one nation, one Yasha'al, and the stranger attached to them or attached to us, all of mankind, all of the first fruits of Adam, the firstborn of Adam, getting up in the first resurrection, coming up out of the soil, their bodies coming up out of the soil and rejoining Ruach and resurrecting as first fruits in the same way that Adam was created from the soil. Ephraim too is first fruits, is firstborn. But this points towards Shabu'ut. But that is still first fruits. So first fruits, it points towards this, and the waving of us before the Father as a well-pleasing and acceptable, pleasing offering, first fruit offering unto him. And because of the Hamashiach presenting himself as a first fruit offering, now the Master, now Yahuwah, can partake of the new harvest. He can partake now of the new harvest. And so now, how do we celebrate first fruit? Let's just look briefly at that. How do we celebrate first fruit? Let's just look briefly at that, understanding that now we are the first fruits. We are the first fruits. So how do we celebrate first fruit on tomorrow? It is not a Shabbat day. But it is a feast. Let's look briefly at this. Give us another precept, little one.
We have Matthew 9, 36 and 38.
Matthew 9, 36 through 38. Matthew 9, 36 through 38. Matat Yahu 9, verse 36 through 38. Matthew 9, Matat Yahu, chapter 9, verses 36 through 38. Matthew 9, Matat Yahu, chapter 9, verses 36 through 38. Matthew, Matat Yahu, chapter 9, verses 36 through 38. Beginning at verse 36. Read, little one.
And having seen the crowds, he was moved with compassion for them, because they were weary and scattered, as sheep having no shepherd. Then he said to his taught ones, the harvest truly is great, but the workers are few. Pray then that the master of the harvest would send out workers to his harvest.
Barak Yahuwah. It's all about the harvest. It's all about the harvest, and we are the harvest. It's not about some grain. It's not about some barley. That's why the temple has been removed, to move that out of the way, so you have no excuse but now to understand the spiritual context of the Feast of First Fruit. We have no other choice now but to understand the deeper spiritual matters, because the physical temple has been moved and the Levitical priesthood has been scattered among the nations. So we have no more choice but to understand that we are the harvest, and we have no more choice but to celebrate this feast now in Ruach and in truth. Come on, give us another precept.
We got John 4, 35 and 36.
John 4, 35 and 36. John 4, 35, 36. No, we're going to skip that. We're going to skip that one. They now understand the context. We're going to skip that one. Give us another precept.
John 15, 1 through 6.
John 15, 1 through 6. John 15, 1 through 6. John 15, 1 through 6. YAHUAH'S 15. John 15, verses 1 through 6. John 15, verses 1 through 6. YAHUAH'S. John 15, verses 1 through 6. Beginning at verse 1. Come on, read, little one.
I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. Every branch in me that bears no fruit, he takes away. And every branch that bears fruit, he prunes, so that it bears more fruit. You are already clean because of the word which I have spoken to you. Stay in me, and I stay in you. As the branch is unable to bear fruit of itself, unless it stays in the vine. So neither you, unless you stay in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. He who stays in me and I in him, he bears much fruit.
Mm-hmm.
Because without me you are able to do naught.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone does not stay in me, he is thrown away as a branch and dries up. And they gather them and throw them into the fire, and they are burned.
Barak Yahuwah. So here we understand that in order to be first fruit, one, we must produce fruit. We must bear fruit. If you are first fruit, you must bear fruit. And the only way to be first fruit is to be attached to the vine, is to be attached to the first fruit, Yahushua HaMashiach. Him and us and him. If he is first fruit, if he presented himself as first fruit, as Adam, if we are in him and he in us, then we too are first fruit. And if we are attached to him, then we too will bear the fruit requisite of being called first fruit. We too will bear the fruit requisite of being called first fruit. Us and him, him and us. Us and him, him and us. We cannot bypass this. In order to be first fruit, he is first fruit. He is first fruit. And so for us to be first fruit, we must be attached to him. Him and us in him. Come on, give us another precept, everyone.
It's the last precept.
Mm-hmm.
Ephesians 2, 1 through 7.
Ephesians 2, 1 through 7.
Mm-hmm.
Ephesians 2, 1 through 7. This is the last scripture. Ephesians 2, 1 through 7. Ephesians 2, 1 through 7. Ephesians chapter 2, verses 1 through 7. Ephesians chapter 2, verses 1 through 7. Ephesians chapter 2, verses 1 through 7. Beginning at verse 1. Read, little one.
And you were dead in trespasses and crime, in which you once walked according to the course of this world, according to the ruler of the authority of the air, of the root that is now working in the sons of disobedience, among whom also we all once lived in the lust of our flesh, doing the desires of the flesh and of the mind, and were by nature children of wrath, as also the rest. But Elohim, who is rich in compassion, because of his great love with which he loved us, even when we were dead in trespasses, made us alive together with Mashiach. By favor you have been saved, and raised us up together, and made us sit together in the heavenlies.
And made us sit together in the heavenlies with him. Come on.
In Mashiach Yahushua, in order to show in the coming ages the exceeding riches of his favor and kindness towards us in Mashiach Yahushua.
Barak Yahuwah. And so now, if we are in him, and he in us, as read in John 15, we are first fruits. Not only are we first fruits, but guess what? We are now seated with him in the heavens. And as he is first fruit and waves himself, because there is a physical body. Yes, there is. There is a physical body. He created a body for himself in which to dwell. Yes, there is. As he is first fruit, we are first fruit. And we are being waved before the Father, seated in the heavenlies with him. Yes, we are. Us and him, him and us being seated with him. And so what does this mean for first fruit? What this means is, as on earth, as in heaven. On earth, as in heaven. On first fruits, tomorrow, in Ruach and in truth. In Ruach and in truth, we present ourselves to the Father as a wave offering, as a first fruit offering, in Ruach and in truth, and we worship before him. He don't want no grain. He wants us. We are the first fruit from the soil, and it is us that he wants to be presented before him as a perfect first fruit offering. And if we are in him and him in us, then that means that we are unleavened. And that means that on first fruit, that we can boldly approach the throne of favor. And we can approach him and present ourselves as an acceptable wave offering, as a first fruit offering unto him. Entering in, pressing in, presenting ourselves as a first fruit offering unto our Father. Worshiping him, praising him in a manner in which he deserves and in a manner in which he demands. This is how we celebrate first fruit. This is how we celebrate first fruit. It is also a feast, so we're also to eat. We're also to eat. Don't make it about the food. I pray you understand that now. It's not about the reign of Shamin. It's not about eating and drinking, but it is about Ruach. And so we are to present ourselves in ruach and in truth as a wave offering to our Father, as a first fruit offering to our Father, waving ourselves before him, worshiping him, praising him in a manner in which is acceptable and pleasing unto him. Barak Yahuwah. Master Yahuwah, I thank you for giving us this understanding.
Thank you, Master.
I pray that this word goes to the four corners of the earth and that you continue to give your children understanding, and so that they began to worship you in ruach and in truth in the manner in which you expect and deserve and demand. It is my prayer, Master, that as this word continues to go forth across the whole of the YAHUAH'S, that your word is not returning void, that your word, that this seed is not being thrown by the wayside, that it is not being thrown on stony ground, that it is not being thrown amongst thorns, but that this seed, the word, Master, and pray that we understand this context now, this seed is being planted in fertile soil, fertilized soil, till soil, such that your Ruach HaKadosh, the living water of your Ruach HaKadosh, will come and water that seed, and so that it germinates and begins to grow, and that it grows into a mighty tree, producing the fruit that leads to everlasting life. In the name of our Master, Yahushua HaMashiach,
Yes, Master.
so be it, so be it, so be it. For those of you who are on YouTube, again, we are grateful once again that you have joined YAHUAH'S Remnant on this Shabbat Yom. We are grateful that you have spent this Shabbat with us. Once again, if you desire to join us live, our contact information is in the channel description. Until the next time, Yahuwah barak you and guard you. Yahuwah make his face shine upon you and show favor unto you. Yahuwah lift up his face upon you and give you shalom. Thus you shall put my name on the children of Yashar'al, and I myself shall barak them. So be it, so be it, so be it.